The Big Footy Port Adelaide podcast is proudly sponsored by New Vision.
My team, kinda power. I love the power. I love the power.
G'day everyone, I'm Macca19 and this is the Big Footy Port Adelaide podcast, a show about all things Port Adelaide Footy Club. As usual, we have Fishing Rick as co-host. How are you, buddy?
Oh, mate, I was full, buddy. I was so full, and then I got this machine, sperm extractor 103. I used it 3 times, and I'm fantastic now.
You are a clown.
Oh, shit! Sorry, wrong podcast.
Good on you.
Sorry, that was my in-joke to everyone that says that I do so much. I thought I'd be funny. Once again, the boys didn't even laugh. What a tough crowd.
That fell flat like a pancake.
I know.
Not too sure how to respond to it.
You've just scared the shit out of our guests.
Who's that?
Well, look, we've got a pair of guests on tonight, helping us review our first game for 2015. There are a couple of legends of the online Port Adelaide Footy Club community. You can see them all over YouTube and Facebook with their vodcasts and their legendary moments. A big welcome to Bryce, Blake and Brandan from the Port Adelaide Pair.
What's going on, guys? Thanks for having us on.
Too easy. Well, look, can you give us a bit of a background about how you guys started supporting Port Adelaide?
Well, it was kind of... It's in my blood. My dad's an absolute Magpies freak, so he loves the Magpies. So it was always, when I was growing up, always Port. And then in 97 when it came up, pretty much straight in members. Been member forever, pretty much. And that's about it, really. Always loved Port.
Yeah. Me personally, Blake, I was brainwashed by my dad. They even had me as I think I was the mascot there for a while with the Magpies, wearing the number half on my back. But yeah, just been going to every game since. Some of my fondest childhood memories have come from drinking a Fanta at Alberton, and I just love the footy club.
Yeah,
nice.
And Bryce, I'm Blake's brother, his younger brother, so obviously there was no chance of me being a Crows fan or Fremantle fan or anything else. I was definitely brainwashed into being a Port fan, and thank God I am, to be honest. I couldn't imagine supporting any other club, with especially the turnout we've got now for everything. It's just, it's an amazing feeling to be part of it.
Absolutely. And how did the Port Adelaide Pair come about?
Well, Brandan is studying journalism at UniSA, so I think he wanted to start something where he could just talk about Port as much as he possibly could, and I don't know, try and maybe get some experience for himself. And well, we've been best mates for a long time now. He just asked if I wanted to join, and to be honest, I talk about Port probably close to 10 hours a day, so if I could do it on film, I'm more than happy. Yeah, it kind of came about that way. I was on another sports show, and it kind of wasn't going the best because all I wanted to do was talk about Port and no one else. And the other boys weren't Port supporters, so that wasn't going so well. So I thought I'd just ask Bryce whether or not he wanted to be part of it, and he said yes. And we kind of started off a bit slow, and we're like, we'll see how it goes. And it kind of took off there. One night we went up by about 1,000 likes, so we're like, we better start taking this a bit more seriously. So from there, it kind of went on, and then Blake started studying journalism as well, and we were like, why not? Why can't we get Blakey on? And he came on, and it's a good experience for Blake and I being journo students. We thought the name already had too much recognition for the Port Adelaide Pair, so we couldn't change it. So we just had to leave it, even though there's 3 of us. Yeah.
No, it's quite interesting. What made you choose the camera over, say, like Macca and myself, that went audio? Is it because you guys think you're handsome devils and you don't shy away from that sort of stuff?
That's a big part of it, I reckon. Since I've known Bryce, I think we film pretty much 97% of our lives anyway. So, we always have a camera in our hands filming stuff. We've done some trick shots, and we always started filming those, and then
we thought we'd start, putting our face in front of the camera and talking about other stuff rather than just kicking a footy into a bin. And that's what it kind
there
of
are
went.
some heated discussions on there as well, so there's been a few fisticuff stories, so it always makes good viewing.
Yeah, you'd want to see that. You can't really appreciate a fight when you're only listening to it, and so that's why we thought we'd get the video out. And we always want people to see our face, so we might get stopped one day on the bus or something like that. That's the dream.
Love it. That's awesome.
Macca and I weren't that courageous, were we, Macca?
Mate, I got a head like a robber's dog, so there's no chance at all that I'm getting in front of a video camera, mate.
Good word. I mean, I just think it's great that, like, the one thing we've all got in common is that we just want to talk about, what a great club we support and just pass on our thoughts. And, I'm sure you guys are as grateful as what we are for the people who actually follow the show and support the show. It's almost overwhelming at times.
Absolutely. Because a lot of things we've done, we just don't get that much support about it. People don't really ask us to do anything, but we've noticed on the Port Adelaide Pair, we've got people commenting on all the videos, like usually the same bunch of people, but it just shows you that they love the club just as much as we do, and they want to be a part of it.
Yeah, we really appreciate it, actually. It's pretty crazy. We never thought anyone would like anything that we did, really. And then one night it just kind of took off, and that just shows how amazing the community is.
Well, look, the NAB Challenge started for Port Adelaide on Sunday in the traditional Port Adelaide homeland of Cooper Stadium in Norwood. Over 9,000 people saw us beat the West Coast Eagles by 40 points. First question I got is, how did you find the Guernsey?
Surprisingly, the first time I saw it when they uploaded it to Facebook, I liked it, but I don't know, seeing it in person...
Oh, really?
I wasn't a fan.
I'm the other way.
No, I'm probably with Blake on this one. I didn't like it that much, actually. I don't know whether or not it was the black shorts and the teal Guernsey or something like to do with that, but I have no idea.
Honestly,
What are you talking about? The black shorts and the teal Guernsey? Because I was standing behind the southern goals, and I went to the merchandise counter there, and bought a pair of blue shorts and a red and blue top. Isn't that what we're supposed to be buying?
I wonder if he sold anything.
I don't know. Usually when you're wearing you see the boys wearing their Guernsey, they got white shorts and a white shirt, and it just kind of looks good. But then when you chop and change, I didn't really like it that much.
I thought it looked cheesy when they first showed it on the page as a photo, and when they came out, I thought it looked good.
Just not sure it works on the pale skin of Lovey and James.
That's it. Yeah, I wasn't too sure about it to start with, but it looked a lot darker in person when they were out on the field than what it looked like on the photos.
Yeah,
so I actually didn't mind it out there. I thought it looked all right. Yeah. Not sure how it would go with white shorts. It would look a bit wishy-washy, I think, but I don't know. I still like the white Guernsey. That's my favourite Guernsey.
Yeah, I reckon we've got a few of them.
Yeah, we've got pretty much all the Guernseys, so...
Yeah. I didn't think we really got out of second gear for much of the day. I thought we took things pretty easy and just got the job done.
Absolutely. I think that maybe the first 10 minutes, we came out like a house on fire. We were killing them. I thought it was going to be an absolute slaughtering.
Yeah.
And then I think we just... I don't know. I guess we knew we had it in the bag, so we just eased off. And as you said, it was just in second gear the whole.
Well, the link-up handball in the first 10 minutes, I thought was fantastic. One of the plays we ran all the way from half back, kicked Robbie Gray, finished it off with a nice goal. And I thought, if that's the sign of things to come this year, we're in for a pretty good year. And then we kind of took the foot off the pedal and let them back in, but we really didn't care that much seeing that, Saw what we can do in the first 10 minutes, and if we can keep that up for a full game, then watch out.
Yeah, I think West Coast just managed to really hold us up, trying to bring it out of defence, and it's when we can get that first kind of possession out of that 50-metre line, that's when all those linkages start to happen, but I don't know, they kind of wised up to it pretty early, and it was a bit of an arm wrestle. Even though we won by 40, it didn't really feel like that, to be honest.
No, I felt more like a bit of a 20-point win, I thought. But
yeah.
I thought we probably struggled with West Coast possession game plan a little bit. Like they were playing pretty slow and steady and chipping it around a little bit. And I don't know, I just thought they sort of broke up our defensive structures a bit in that second quarter.
Yeah, they did. But, we had a few key outs in that back line. You know, we didn't
absolutely.
have Pomch or Trengove or Broadbent. You know, Broadbent's a lot of run off that half back line, and we really missed that big kick out of the back 50 there. And Trengove's a massive out as well when you don't have him in there. You know, it's just a massive hole, and I think we really missed that in terms of, you know, clearing the ball out of that back 50 with that run.
Then Pittard came off as well, and he was I thought he was just about best on ground for us at the time, and he was providing some real run off that back flank, and then he came off and it kind of, dried up a bit.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought it was a very good start. I thought you guys have summed it up pretty well. And I agree. I think we had our strongest midfield unit in there with Wines, Gray and Blake in the beginning, and hence the reason. And not only that, as you pointed out in your review, Macca, I thought Lobie was spoon-feeding them fantastically well with his ruck work. And then we started playing around with our structures a little bit. We started giving Archie more game time around the ball and a few of those lesser players or lesser known players, I should say. And I think the one concern, I don't think it really matters if Jacko and those other players were in our side, because what happened is we were coughing it up, and then West Coast with their possession game were able to they almost knew not to kick it long, and so they chipped it, and they were able to chip their way through the defensive zone, so to speak, and get that free man inside 50. And I think that's if we're looking at it very analytically and cruelly, that would probably be the biggest concern for the coaches. But then at the same time, if you look at the final scoreboard, for us to restrict them to 7 goals, 7 with the players that we did have missing was a fantastic effort.
Look, I thought our skill level was pretty good on the day. I was pretty pleased again that the skills that we showed in the internal trial followed through to the first sort of competitive game. The other thing I really took out of the game was just how fit and trim the players look. They look really hard bodies, but also pretty trim. Like, they look pretty tight and lots of core strength there.
Yeah, no, I reckon I noticed it most with Jarman Impey. I reckon he's put on. He just looks a lot, stronger in his core, and he looks a lot fitter. He was running around for like the whole game pretty much, chasing the ball.
I guess, all the pre-season work that they do, and obviously the Dubai trip, you'd think at this point of the year that's probably where they are going to be their trimmest, I guess. I mean, the running workload will probably reduce throughout the season, so I guess, at this time of the year they probably need to be their trimmest, I suppose.
But they look muscularly fit, though, don't you reckon? They look like cut athletes. So it's not like they're thin and someone's going to, like the old Geelong's going to run through them and break them in half. These boys look like they can now absorb impact and wear the full game of body impact.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I think that's exactly what the training staff were going for as well with that 3-year plan that they were going, especially some of the first-year players. I noticed Jake Need's put on a fair bit of size since his first year. And I mean, he's not getting bumped off the ball as easy as he once was, and I think that's exactly what they're going for.
Yeah, it looks like Carl Amon as well. I remember watching him a few times last year run around for the Magpies, and he looked like a tiny little boy, but he certainly wasn't looking like that on the weekend. He looks like he'd be ready to play a few games this season.
Oh, don't encourage Macca. Here we go.
Super impressed by Carly Amon. He was a great player on Sunday.
Yeah, I still think Paul Stewart was a fantastic player on the weekend, and I thought he was probably one of our best running players for the whole game.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. I said that as soon as I saw the boys at half-time here. Went over and saw him, and I said Paul Stewart's probably my best on ground at that point. He had a lot of stability, and his kicking was actually really good. So, I don't know. Carl Amon really came into his own, I think, towards the last quarter, and some of his foot disposal was excellent. He hit this pass to Robbie Gray, I think it was. It only went about a metre off the ground for about 40 metres, and it just hit him right on the chest. And I thought, this kid's got some skill. So, it's really exciting.
Goal kicking, did we think that was a bit of an issue? It was an issue all year last year in 2014, and we could have really buried West Coast in that third quarter, but we started the quarter and missed probably 3 or 4 real gettable shots.
Yeah, it was a pretty big issue last year, when I reckon that was pretty much the main reason we were losing those games last year through that stretch where we lost a whole bunch in a row. But The Butch was a little bit off target with one of his. Unfortunate to see. Everyone was rooting behind him, but I was pretty interested to see how Lobie was going to go moving into the forward line, because that's going to be something when Ryder comes in. He's obviously going to have to push into the forward line at stages of the game, and he looked all right in the forward line for a goal. Yeah, he kicked a nice goal, and I thought he looked all right.
Well, I think I'm not 100% sure whether or not goal kicking was their main objective for the first few weeks of pre-season, to pretty much getting fit, but I noticed the kicking probably was a little bit off at times, but that can only get better throughout the season, hopefully. So
you like to put it down as being the first game of the season, or pre-season even. So I mean, it was 11 goals, 14 in the end with one super goal, so it's not like a nightmare goal kicking game, but obviously you like to see it the other way around with more goals than not.
I was just having a look at some of the stats, and our inside 50 count was down for the possessions we had usually compared to last season, where we were around the mid to high 50s most games. We only had 45 inside 50s this week. Macca, did you notice that at the time?
No, not really. I mean, shorter quarters, that might have had something to do with it as well.
Yeah. It's not something I noticed either, but I've noticed it now. But I guess going back to Paul Stewart, I guess the thing that really stood out for me with his durability over the 4 quarters was the fact that 6 1%ers, which was the highest from the team, 3 tackles as well, 3 inside 50s, and he provided a lot of link-up play in addition to his hard stuff. And I mean, that's one thing we could never say about Paul Stewart as a player, that he's not hard. I'm just really hoping that he can be durable for this whole season, because if he can, I think he can provide some value for the team.
What position, Rick, do you think that Paul Stewart's best suited to?
I do. He's going to be fighting with a fair few players. I do think probably that running half-back mould, where we've only got about 25 players that could probably play there. But he's got that ability to play the tall, short sort of role. So he's probably fighting with Broadbent, who is obviously a first-team player. Your Cam O'Shea, who was a bit of a fringe and not a fringe player last year. And obviously Jasper Pittards, another one. But I can't see Jasper and Brody not being first-choice players in that regard.
Yeah, I think a lot of it will come down to injuries, and hopefully, we wish that there's no injuries on the team, but unfortunately we all know that will happen. It just depends who and when. And I think some of those players will kind of not be hoping for it, but when they get the chance, they'll try and take it with both hands. And I don't know where we'll play Impey if he plays a game. He might get that small forward like he did when he took out Valentine last year against Freo, and he's another player that can play off that half-back line as well. And even at the end of last year, we saw Chad Wingard go off the half-back line to get into the game. So we've got a lot of options there on that half-back line, and it's just really interesting to see who gets the nod each week, actually.
Yeah. I mean, Stewart's just the perfect plug-and-play depth player, because he can play down back, can play in the midfield, can play up forward. He's kicked a lot of goals up forward before. You just know when he's going to get his chance. Hopefully he takes it. And you can see why they gave him another 2-year contract because of that. With Impey, I said on the board today, I reckon he's fighting with O'Shea for that final sort of defensive spot, and I reckon they might sort of swap and change from week to week in a bit of a horses for courses type deal.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess Impey just suits up better against that smaller forward. You can't really put O'Shea on a Ballantyne or an Eddie Betts, really. So, but I personally, I've become a big fan of Cam O'Shea in the past few years, just the way that he's played in finals. I mean, he really hasn't put a foot wrong in all the finals he's played, which, I mean, for a guy who was pretty shaky early on, he's come on leaps and bounds.
And if you're talking about fitness, I mean, he's one guy that looks a lot bulkier now, doesn't he? Especially his upper torso and his shoulders, and he looks like he can withstand a lot of impact and create his own impact now.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what, if he's in the team, what we'll need against some of those bigger teams with a really big forward line. That bigger body that can take that third tall will really help. It might mean that he switches to a back pocket if we're getting killed in the forward line there. So if he gets that bigger body, he gets used to it, then it's really good for us.
Just back on Paul Stewart, what did you guys make of the hairstyle?
Best on ground in terms of haircuts, that's for sure. Though Tom Lamb was pretty interesting as well.
I know why you're jealous of his hairstyle, Macca.
That's because I got none.
Yeah, I don't know.
Very jelly.
It's the modern trendy haircut, I guess, isn't it? What did you guys think?
Not a fan of the top nine.
Got too much of it on the team.
Yeah, there are
Aaron Young's, I think, might be topping it the worst.
His is horrendous.
Would you call it filthy?
Oh, it's definitely filthy.
All he needs now is some really bad facial hair, and he'll be right.
You can see why they call Youngie the fetus.
I think even Pittards is even sporting some long hair now. So
Ollie Wines had long hair. This must be the summer thing. I remember last year Hamish Hartlett came back after pre-season with long hair. Didn't last long when the season started, but it just must be a summer thing.
I want Hamish to grow that mo back. Now that was filthy.
Pittards was filthy.
Pittard can't do anything filthy, boys. He's the man. I hope you guys know that I'm the number one Jasper Pittard fan in the world, don't you?
I don't know about that. I've got a mate and he just absolutely loves Jasper, so you might be pushing that. But,
really?
it's good that he's got some fans.
It is. Well, some of us have to stick up for him. He was very maligned in his time. I guess he was probably one of those players, I thought, on the weekend that was just sort of doing what he had to do, I guess, for the game instead of having to put it all on the line. He wasn't really needed too much, was he?
I thought he was great. I thought he was fantastic in that first half.
Still looked a little bit indecisive at times.
Was
but
he?
I think just on the occasions right at the start, I think he was turning back around. I think Logie put him under pressure one time, so it wasn't really his fault. But you get that with Pittard, and you still love the way he plays, still love the way he takes on the game.
I think the controversial one from the weekend, Macca and boys, is Tom Cleary. There's been a bit of a divided opinion about his game on the weekend.
I think he might just be one step too slow at the moment. I hope he gets a little bit quicker, but I guess he is a big defender. So
I've always been a Cleary fan. I watched all the Magpies game last year, and I thought he was great last year. Really wanted him to get a bit more of a go at the start of last year, but I don't know. I'm not sure where he fits because of how much depth we've got in that back line. So I think he's got a fair bit of work to do this year if he wants to get a game, but I really hope he does because I'm a big fan.
Yeah, I thought he looked a bit inattentive at times on Sunday and probably a little bit of out of position as well. I was really hoping he'd sort of come through and have a big game because I was really impressed with him last year at the Magpies as well, but just didn't quite see it on the weekend. I'm looking forward to seeing him again this week though. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm really looking forward to this upcoming game because a few of the stars will step out and it gives a few of the younger boys a bit more of a crack, and that's really exciting.
That's it.
My comment was with Cleary, I thought he needs to probably play that Paul Stewart role more so, where he provides that link-up play and run up the ground. I think that's where his ability is. He got exposed at that second quarter with one passage of play where O'Shea sort of wasn't happy. He should have really blocked Kennedy and provided that protection and didn't really do it. And, not that he didn't want to do it, but he just didn't execute it right. And there seems to be glimpses that he, as a lockdown defender, even though there was an article today saying how good he was, I thought I saw some weaknesses there. But I think as a running defender, run-off defender, or even in the midfield, which has been spoken about, might be his calling. But he's just one of those players which is just going to be finding it really hard to get in the side.
Oh yeah, I think that article was talking about playing him as a big-bodied midfielder. So yeah, I think they're just trying to find somewhere to put him at the moment.
Well, I mean, when he plays for the Magpies, he's pretty much go-to defender a lot of the time, especially last year. And I think when he came into the team playing the NAB Challenge last week, he was kind of a bit lost because of that. You had Alapate there, and it meant that he didn't get the best forward, which he might do in the SANFL. So he might have taken a while to get used to that. But I don't know. I think I agree with you. It's really good when he runs up the wing. He did that a lot last year in the SANFL, and he provided a lot of in 450 entries. So we can get him doing that on a more constant basis, I think he'll be a great player.
Look, I'm just going to throw a couple of names out, and I want an opinion on how they went on the weekend and how we think they might go this year. First one, Johnny Butcher.
I love Butch. Hashtag back the Butch.
I've always been a fan of the Butch.
I just love the way there's a pack of 10 people and one person knocks them all over. He's like a bowling ball taking out the pins.
His second effort, it's really amazing for him. Like, that's why you want to keep him in, because he can take a great mark and he'll chase the ball down. It's just, if his goal kicking he just improved just a little bit. After a pre-season, you'd pretty much say he's come back, he's worked on his kicking all summer, and the first kick he gets, he butchers. I've got high hopes for Butch. Yeah, I think
everyone's got high hopes
when
for him.
they come through.
Have we had a player that the Port Adelaide Footy Club supporters have wanted to succeed as much as Johnny Butcher?
Absolutely. I think everyone loves him and wants him to succeed, but he's got to get that kicking right.
But you can hear it when he takes a mark. Everyone just goes up. Everyone's loving it. But you also then hear the whispers of, oh, geez.
What's going to happen? Yeah, I think that might get into his head a bit, actually. So
I think it's definitely on his head.
Port Adelaide fans, when he takes a mark inside forward 50, don't say a thing.
Just shut up.
Reminds me of the love that Nathan Loney and Cam Hitchcock used to get.
Yeah.
Actually, seriously though, Mac, I reckon the only other one would maybe be a much lesser version, maybe Damon White.
Yeah, Whitey, maybe Brett Ebert as well. I think everyone wanted Brett Ebert to become that sort of, superstar midfielder that he showed at SANFL level at the start of his career. But
Brett still played 170 odd games.
Oh, no doubt he did. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he did get the time in the sun. I think, Butcher hasn't clocked up that many, and Damon White, how many did he end up getting? Like 50 odd or something? And
about 50.
Kept battling through injuries as well, and just couldn't get there. But look, he's a unique beast, the old Butch. I love that contested mark he took though.
Oh, it was a great one.
One thing that we love about him, he always hits the pack hard and takes it. When he can, he takes a big, clunking mark, and that's what we like to see.
Yeah. I said in my review that he's basically the hot girl that shows you a bit of cleavage and a bit of leg, but you never get the whole package. He gets his hands on the bowl in the marking contest, but he always seems to have soft hands and doesn't take the grab. He's always seems to be that sort of metre or two out of position. I thought he wasn't too bad. The attitude was up. I thought his tackling was great. Fantastic running as always, but my criticism of him over the last few years is that he's basically a 200 centimetre sheepdog, and we just need for him to start clunking those marks and taking more shots on goal.
Yeah, I think his timing is pretty bad usually. He doesn't quite time his jump right or judge where the ball's going to go. So I think he needs to work on that. But if he can get that right, sky's the limit.
Yep. Next player is Carl Amon. I thought he was really impressive, as I said earlier. Some of his kicks were fantastic, and really liked how he put his body on the line as well. And he probably should have ended up with 2 goals. He hit the post late in the game there as well, and I thought he had a ripper game.
I think that's the thing, because he's obviously playing for his spot. He wants to show everyone, even the fans that probably don't get to see Maggie's games too much. So he wants to show them that he can play footy. So, but I thought he played really well on the weekend. It's obviously still up in the air as if he's going to be able to grab a game this season or not.
Well, originally I thought he was a little bit too small when I first saw him, but now that he's put that size on, it's quite exciting to see. It's just whether or not he can back it up weeks on end, and I think that's what they'll look at in the SANFL this week, whether or not this season, whether or not he'll keep backing it up, and I think if he does that, there's a good chance of a debut.
I think another huge thing that he's got going for him is that he's left-footed, which, we've only got a couple in like Polak and Pittards, really, and then he gets pretty slim. So, if we can have him on a left wing or something, it could be a real positive this year.
Where does he fit in the list? Is he sort of player 20 to 25, 26 to 30, or in the 30s?
Maybe 26 to 30. I think, it's a tough...
It's really hard, It's got to that point now where we've got such depth that it's really hard to find a spot. Whereas 3 years ago, you'd say he'd be putting on a Guernsey for round 1. And that's really exciting as a Port fan.
We would have been almost getting a call for round 1 a couple of years ago.
Mm.
Yeah.
Look, I reckon Carl Amon is going to be pushing round one. I reckon it's going to be between him and Jakey Need.
Yeah, that's pretty much right, I think. Whether I wasn't that impressed with Needy's game on the weekend, actually, but after his finals campaign and leading up to that last year, you don't know where he sits, especially with Amon has a really good pre-season. It will be between those two.
All right, next player is Brendan Archie. How do we think of him on the weekend?
Still a bit unsure about Brendan. He does lack a little bit of pace.
I think he has the ability to absolutely take over a game. I think he has that ability. Whether or not it happens, I'm not too sure. But, I think his body type is exactly what you need if you're a footballer. He didn't quite get into the game as much as I wanted him to on the weekend.
5 disposals, so...
But he did show a little bit when he did get the ball. And he just needs to get more of the ball, I think. And he had some SANFL games last year where he took over. But whether or not that happens enough is another question.
So is it a confidence thing for Brendan? Is that, like you said, he needs to get more ball, and that's probably the most common thing I would think for Brendan at this point in time as well. So is that really driven by confidence in the coaches to put him in those key structural positions more often, or is it just his positioning that's causing him not to get it?
I think it's a bit of both there. I reckon it is a bit of a confidence issue. I think he needs to have a really big first quarter to have a big game and get his confidence up. If he does that, then I reckon he's set. I just don't think he's suited to that sort of forward pocket, forward flank role where he was sort of situated on the weekend. He looked a little bit sluggish and a little bit slow, and I don't think his defensive pressure was good enough.
Harsh.
Yep. But I think he's more suited to being an inside midfielder. I think that's where his talent sort of lies. But I mean, I just can't see. Yeah, I just can't see him breaking into that core midfield group at the moment.
No, midfield's pretty deep, so it's been pretty tough. Him and Andrew Moore, similar body types, really. So I think he could play that midfield, a midfield role where he gets in and under. But I don't think he's a forward pocket player either. I think he's too big for that. Not quick enough for that role. I don't know where he'll play if he breaks into the side. He'll have to have a pretty big year in the SANFL if he's going to get in there.
What about the crack? How do we think of the crack on the weekend?
Loved him. Love the crack.
How good was his return?
I don't think he did a thing wrong the whole game.
No.
Every time I saw him, he came
off the whole game.
No, but okay, did he play his whole game? He did.
But I remember seeing him in the SANFL last year, and I think I said it to Bryce that we need to pick him up again because his skills and his efficiency with the ball is second to none. He's really clean with the ball, and I love seeing it on the weekend. You just take out a player and wouldn't have any worry with him straight back up. He's a tough player, and I think we might need that in certain places this year. If we make finals again, hopefully, of course, we might need a big body defender like that to come in and clear a few packs, take a mark, and be really clean with the ball. Yep. So I really liked him.
Yeah, it just seemed like there was more maturity to his game now. Maybe when he was with Port, he was still quite raw, but now just the way he plays, he seems really steady. And I hope he gets shot at some point.
The thing that I noticed was he said something on the website just before the game. There was a bit of a video of him, and he said, back when I was with Port before, you could sort of sag off a little bit and sort of do your own thing, but if you try and do that now, you get absolutely blasted by your teammates and coaches. So I think we're going to see a different cracker out there from what we saw previously, and I thought he had a fantastic game. He didn't really put a foot wrong. Every time he went near the ball, he either defended perfectly or he got us going in the right direction, and to set up a goal with his first kick was fantastic.
Yeah, it's an absolute lace-out kick.
Yeah, that's another thing with his skill, it's just... You'd want to be on the end of one of those kicks if you're a forward, that's for sure.
Yep.
It's just a fairy tale story as far as I'm concerned. I was one of those jaded supporters that was not very happy at all because I felt like he let us down. We sort of invested the time and then he bailed on us. And obviously, with history behind him, we can see that obviously his head wasn't in the right space either with us or with Gold Coast, and he wasn't really doing himself any service, let alone the club. So for him to be able to, swallow the pride, which can be a big thing to do, he did it, and he's come back and he's done the hard yards. And 100% disposal efficiency for only 38% time on ground, which was the second lowest for the team. What he did when he got the opportunity was just fantastic, and I think all of us are hoping that he'll get some games this year. And we've got a long-term injured player, so which is unfortunate. It's Frampton, I think. So hopefully Nathan gets an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's good to see that pretty much the entire Port Adelaide community is welcoming him back.
Last player I want to talk about is Andrew Moore. I thought he had a great game. And if he can play like that every week, it takes so much pressure off guys like Wines and Boak doing the heavy lifting at the stoppages.
Yeah, absolutely. I know he's one of those players that you watch and you want him to do well each week. I don't know why, but I've always wanted him to do well. He can be a bit shaky at times, but when he does get into the game, he's quite effective. He's got that big body midfielder kind of thing going on there. So hopefully he's lost a little bit of his indecisiveness when it comes to getting the ball. But I liked his game on the weekend as well. It wasn't too bad.
Yeah, I think he might. Last season, I think he was just that fraction too slow for his size even, and I think just from this game, it looks as if he's a little bit quicker now. He's making that decision quicker, and I think honestly he's going to be a great player for us this year.
Yeah, and obviously his size is probably his biggest plus. I mean, he's besides maybe Wines, he's probably our next biggest midfielder. So that's pretty crucial towards locking down big-bodied Josh Kennedy or someone like that.
He's really deceptive. I never seem to notice him getting possessions in a game though, compared to other players. I mean, he got some good stats too, like 4 clearances and 5 rebound 50s, 4 inside 50s. So he was really contributing throughout the ground. Either I need to pay attention to him more, or he needs to dye his hair colour so he sticks out a little bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing him kick a few more goals. I think that's probably something he could add to his game. He kicked a nice super goal on the run on the weekend, and maybe if he could just add that to his game, you'd probably notice him a bit more, Rick.
Yeah, you're probably right there. He needs to do what Youngie did. There's another goal for you guys to try and recreate soon.
Yeah. That's the Youngie last season. You couldn't get him to kick it. He had that goal running right into it that he's hit the post somehow. He's always seemed to miss the easy goals, and he's made that one.
I was right behind that one. It had the right arc on it, but I thought it was going to hit the post, and then it went at right angles, Tim. So, Mark, it's good.
What about Macca? There's one player you missed out. I think we should quickly talk about. It's maybe Hamish Hartlett. Supposedly he's done his groin. Now, I was at that end where he kicked the ball, and I tell you what, that pass he did was absolutely amazing. Where he crossed it, and was it Need or White that took the mark? But either way, it was a beautiful goal assist. But he did grab his groin muscle straight afterwards and was stretching his leg out. So obviously he did something there.
He did that, and then he went up the other end and kicked it again. He came off for a little while and then came back on, and then he kicked a bit of a fluff kick, and he kind of went along the ground, and straight after that went for the groin again and slowly walked off. So that was a bit of a worry, but I think he's only a couple of weeks off. So hopefully he gets up for round 1, but you wouldn't be taking any risks. A dynamic player, and we need him.
It gets you a bit nervous considering how injury prone he used to be. So, and he was out for ages with those hamstrings and shoulders. So, you still get a bit nervous about these little small injuries, but hopefully he's back pretty soon.
I wouldn't want to be on the end of one of his kicks because it'd probably knock me over. So,
just a quick one: Andrew Moore versus Aaron Young. Who's going to play round 1 between them?
I'd have Andrew Moore.
Yeah, I think Morey's just a bit more steady.
Yeah, I think his foot skills are a little bit better as well. I don't know, something about Aaron Young, I just get a little bit nervous when he gets it.
It's really tough though because I love both of them. We don't want anyone
that's
to
it.
him, so we hate saying we don't want him in the team for round 1. Yeah, it's really tough.
Yeah, I'd go more. Just.
Cheer, cheer the black and the white. Honour the Magpies day and by night. Live that.
Well, let's have a quick chat about the Magpies game. That was at Norwood Oval as well on Friday night. A bit of a farcical display where the academy game was about to get started. As you said earlier in the pre-chatter, I think the coin toss was even done. And then over the speaker, they got told to get off the ground, which is pretty ridiculous. But the main event went ahead, only to see the Pies lose 4 goals 9 to 14 goals 12, a 63-point loss. I guess the most significant thing was that we were quite undermanned. We only had one player out there with AFL experience and only 3 on the senior list. So we only had 4 players from the grand final team out there. So it was a pretty undermanned outfit that played on Friday night.
Well, yeah. I mean that's the thing. We really missed a lot of our run there, and the experience really wasn't ideal for that team. But I really wasn't happy with that academy thing. You know, those boys would have geared up. A lot of them hoping to get, a bit of a league chance this year, and that's one of the chances they get to prove themselves. And then, they just get told to get off the oval. I think that really should have been handled better, and
it's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard in football, to be honest.
Well, that was an AFL mandate, though, wasn't it?
Well, surely they would have known that there was this game going ahead, and they could have told them like a week before or something.
Well, maybe everyone just made an assumption.
I just don't understand how it could possibly be after the coin toss as well. Like, how do you get it that late? Like, the players are already on the field. They've been doing their stuff, and they get told to run off.
So who would have told Mark Evans that there was a game about to be played at Norwood Oval? And you got, shit, quick, tell him. You've got 30 seconds to get off the field.
Some dibber-dobber.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Caroline Wilson was probably there. It seems like a bit of a dibber-dobber.
Well, we were goalless to half-time, so it wasn't a great showing. I think Dougal Howard played pretty well. Tommy Logan and Steve Summerton, obviously, they're the most experienced heads out there. They played pretty well. And Sam Gordon kicked a ripper goal as well. And I'm pretty interested to see how Sam Gordon goes this year because he came with a pretty big reputation. And I thought he was a little bit disappointing last year, so I'm pretty interested to see how many senior games he gets this year.
Yeah, he's a very interesting player, Macca.
Yeah, for me, the most pleasing thing about Sunday was seeing the Power win at the parade. I haven't seen the Magpies. I've been going there down to the parade, watch the Maggies for so many years. Something about the parade, they just can't get the job done.
That's the thing, we all went to school on the parade, so we're always down there. And
they're one of the 20%.
We're the Port fans that no one wants to talk to. So when we're down there, we're kind of outnumbered, but it was really good to see a lot of Port fans out there for once.
It really hasn't been a happy home for Port Adelaide, the parade. I remember going there in the mid-90s and watching us get thrashed by 90 points just about every year. But it was almost a comforting feeling because you knew that if you lost at the parade, you'd end up winning the premiership.
Do you think my summary of the parade, like in my little blog that I wrote, I called it claustrophobic? It's pretty. You're almost on top of the players, which I think is a good thing. You're really close to the game, but it's just such a claustrophobic atmosphere there.
Yeah, I mean, I sat in the one of the grandstands along the wing, and quite often I couldn't actually see a lot of the play, which was down one wing, because it just kept getting cut off by the edge of the grandstand. So where the players ran off, I could never see, who was getting subbed off or who was on or anything like that, because it's so shallow there, and it is like a bit claustrophobic like that.
Doesn't help that you got almost 9,000 people cramming into that spot, though.
Mm.
What do you think, Macca?
They could probably spend a bit of money on upgrading it a little bit. The stadium itself was in a bit of a state of disrepair, I thought, but the ground itself looked probably better than I've ever seen the parade.
The ground looked really good.
Yeah.
But they still need that cyclone fencing and the 1.5 inch bloody gout pipe holding it up bloody all around the place, because it does make watching the game from behind the goals very difficult.
Mm.
Yeah, well, you'd think they'd have enough money, to do a little bit of a revamp. Premier's however many times it is now, and it is in the eastern suburbs, so they're not short on cash. So you'd think they'd be able to put a little bit of dosh in towards getting some stuff.
Did you guys notice the sneaky scoreboard tactic of how they put West Coast as the home team and Port as the away team?
Well, apparently we had the away rooms as well.
Oh,
That's
kidding.
shocking. That
But I
How
heard,
petty can you get, Norwood Football Club? Jesus.
someone said to me on my blog that we had the away change rooms because we wanted the gym. So because we wanted the gym, it was tied in with that. So that's probably the answer. And then the scoreboard was just the schoolboy error by the person putting up the scores, apparently.
Nah, they're just jerks.
So it wasn't that much of an issue for me when I was there. Maybe it was the beers and the wine that I drank beforehand, Macca, that was starting to kick in.
That's it. Well, boys, how do you think Port are going to go this year? What's your predictions?
I don't want to, get... No, it's about being confident. There's no getting ahead of yourself. I think we're finishing top 2. That's pretty conservative. I'd like to say we're finishing absolute top.
I'd like to make a call now, but I'd also like to make a call after the first month. How we go in that first month will pretty much dictate our season, I think. And I'm hoping it definitely in top 4. Top 4 is, a necessity this year. We have to get top 4 or else the season's absolutely failed.
Yeah.
So hopefully the top 4. And I think, if we get in deep enough, we can definitely push for a premiership.
On a bit of a sideway tangent, I think there's some good betting odds for Port enthusiasts this year. We're still at reasonable odds for the premiership, and Robbie Gray for top 3 in the Brownlow must be almost a Monty, I would say. I reckon you'd get good odds on that. I think he's 21-1 for the Brownlow medal, so I'm tempted to that. We need to get Stafford on, Macca, because he would be the man. He always seems to do well with the bets.
That's it.
Yeah, I did notice that $21 odds on Robbie, and just whether I might chuck a few dollars on him.
Just whether or not the umpires actually notice him this year.
Yeah,
they will. It's about because they noticed it at the end of last year. That's when you start to get a few votes. So I was thinking about today actually, coincidentally. Like, he's a massive chance to get this Brownlow. I can't. He's a freak. Maybe 5 if he plays well and doesn't get suspended or something. But jeez,
yeah, you'd be putting something on that.
And like so he had 28 disposals, 3 goals on the weekend, and he was crook.
Yeah. Well, they always say the umpires are 12 months behind in terms of the Brownlow. Happened with Ablett, happened with Swan, happened with Judd. So you never know. Robbie Gray, Brownlow medalist, 2015, it might happen.
It'd be nice. We'll finally get a Brownlow medalist. Wanganeen was always he was the unlucky one, and Treadray was probably unlucky too, really. I still reckon Jasper's a Monty for the Brownlow this year.
If he doesn't get close, I'll be disappointed.
Yeah. I'll be hunting down the ump, so I reckon there'll have to be something going on.
Mate, if he does that, I'm going to run around Alberton Oval in the nude.
All right, we're holding him to that one.
There you go. Lock it in.
So what do you guys got coming up on your show next?
Well, we're gonna do the first episode coming up pretty shortly. Actually, it's just getting a day that we can film it. Other than that, we're looking at doing another legendary moment. We're gonna try and recreate the Darryl Wakeland and Alistair Lynch brawl in the 04 Grand Final. So that'll be one to look for.
Oh, that'll be great.
Value for this one, so it'll be good to watch.
Good work.
Nice, I like it. All right, we might leave it there for now. Cheers for coming on, boys.
No worries, thanks for having us.
Cheers.
Yeah, thanks for your time, fellas.
Everybody check them out, Port Adelaide Pair on Facebook, on YouTube. It's fantastic.
It is good, and it's easy to find, isn't it? It's just Port Adelaide Pair.
That's it.
Came up pretty easy. Thanks, boys. Appreciate you coming on, and we'll have a special surprise to everyone in a few weeks' time.
Nice.
Cheers.
Cheers, lads. Go the Pair.
Go the Pair.
Go the Pair.
Tread rate from 45 metres out.